Today I'm going to show you how I painted this butterfly using this gouache. Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artists at Play, and today I am playing with gouache. More specifically, I am playing with the Caran Gouache Studio pans. This is a 15 pan set, and it's 14 pans and 1 tube of white, and this is what they look like. They are huge. I love how big these pans are. It does come with a pamphlet, but unfortunately the pamphlet doesn't really have a whole lot of information. Basically just talks about techniques you can use with this gouache, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't give any pigment information, and it doesn't give any Lightfast information, which was kind of disappointing. But these are very large pans, and it looks like they're replaceable, though I haven't found a place where I can buy them open stock. Okay, so now I'm going to start working on my project. I am actually working on a greeting card right now. This is the Strathmore watercolor greeting cards. I don't know exactly what they're called, but I will link them in the description below. And I just wanted to work really small just to get a feel for these materials. This is actually my first time ever working in gouache in pan form. Usually I work with tubes of gouache. I have some Winsor & Newton designer's gouache and things like that. So this is my first time ever buying gouache in pans, and that's one reason why I was super excited about them. I actually bought them as kind of a last minute buy for myself on Blick. It was really not planned. I just happened to see them and thought that they looked interesting and threw them in my cart. I bought them for about $36.95, but they are a few cents cheaper on Amazon. They're $36.52 as of the time of me recording this voiceover. So I will link that in the description below if you're interested in getting this gouache. So when I went to the Caran website, I wanted to find out if there was any Lightfast information that I could find, because when I bought these, when they came, there was no information on the container, and there wasn't even actually any color names written on the container, which I thought to be kind of weird, especially for Caran. I had bought them knowing the brand, and I guess I had kind of assumed that they were artist grade and that all this information would be included, but I guess I was mistaken in that, because when I went to their website, it advertises them as an economic way for students and amateurs to use gouache. So that was kind of odd for me, because at this point I had already started using them and they feel really high quality to me. Excuse me. So I don't know. I think that they would be a great way for students to get used to gouache if they had never used them before. But I also feel like for the price point, it's really not as economic as they are advertising. I think that it's more in the price range of something, I don't know, I guess maybe advanced student. But there are definitely cheaper alternatives out there if you are very, very new to gouache and you just want to try something and not have to invest a lot of money. So that was kind of one downfall. I think that they're advertising it in a way that is not exactly the most accurate. However, they are awesome paints. I had a lot of fun with these. And I was able to look on the Blick website where I bought them and find out the color list. So the colors that I got in this pack are the lemon yellow, vermilion, carmine, purple, brown, yellow ochre, yellow green, emerald, malachite green, cyan, ultramarine, gray, black, and the tube of white. So just a couple of notes about the colors that I discovered in this. For one, the cyan pan does not look like cyan in pan form. It's actually much darker when you look at the pan, and it doesn't look cyan until you wet it down, which I found to be very interesting. It almost actually looked like it would be a dark purple or a dark blue, and then once I wet the pan, it became a very, very vibrant cyan. So that's something to keep in mind if you get this. I'm not somebody who usually does a whole lot of color swatches. I like to jump right in, but I did swatch a little bit off to the side. I don't think I kept my swatches though, so I don't have it here in the video to show you. But that was something interesting that I found out. All these colors seem to be very, very vibrant, and I didn't really have any trouble getting the saturation that I wanted, even when I watered them down. However, the one exception to this would be the white. I was very disappointed in the white. It is not very opaque like I would like. It's not very strong, so even mixing it with other colors, like, it was very difficult to get a pure white or to layer pure white over parts of the artwork for higher highlights. So if you do end up getting this, I would recommend buying maybe just a different tube of white to go with this set, perhaps from the Winsor Newton line or Holbein or a different company. That being said, I had so much fun with this, and I think I am addicted to using gouache in pans now. I found them to be so much easier to work with for some reason than in the past when I have worked with the tube form of gouache. They do dry quickly, so I did have to re-wet them quite often, but there was so much in the pans, like, oh, I'm so excited. I know that I'll be able to use this for a very long time without me having to replace colors. That being said, as I mentioned before, I had a hard time finding any open stock pans online or even any open stock tubes of this kind of paint. They do offer sets of tubes in the Studio Gouache as well, but I didn't really find any smaller tubes that I could use to refill my pans. That being said, that doesn't mean that they aren't out there. I just may not have looked in the right place for them. So if you know of a way that you can buy either the Caran d'Ache pans of gouache or the Caran d'Ache tubes of gouache open stock, please put it in the comments below, because I would like to know, and I'm sure some other viewers would like to know as well. So right now what you're seeing me do is I'm going through and I'm putting in the detail on the log that this butterfly is on. And this actually went really quickly. This was, I mean, it's not a very large project, but it didn't take me long at all. This is a very, very quick medium. It's great. A lot of people compare it to watercolor. They say it's opaque watercolor. I like to think of it as somewhere between regular translucent watercolor and acrylics. And I think that it has the vibrancy, obviously, and the opacity of acrylics, but it's not shiny like acrylics. So it dries nice and matte, which makes it perfect for videotaping or for making prints of or photographing, because everything just dries to a nice flat matte. You don't have to worry about glare. But it has the lifting qualities of watercolor, which can be a blessing and can be a curse if you're somebody who is used to working in acrylics and you're used to being able to paint right over. You have to be very careful in the way you layer gouache. I like to do my thinner layers first, and then, you know, the layers that have more water, I like to lay those down first, and then I go over it with thicker paint with less water. That way there, I'm less apt to lift things up. If there's thicker paint underneath, but you have a watery layer you're trying to put over it, most likely the water in your layer will pull the layer from below. So you just want to be careful with that if you're new to gouache. I'm just going through and obviously laying in some undercoats for my butterfly wings, and I used more water there than what I will be using later, like I was just talking about. But if you look, it's still not, it has some translucent quality when it's watered down, but it's still pretty opaque. It's still very saturated. And I'm just using a brush to, obviously a fine liner, to put in the details. And this was a really, like I said, it's only a 5x7, and you can tell when comparing it to my hand that it's quite small. So there were times when I struggled to get the detail I wanted, but it wasn't so much the medium itself. I think it was more or less just, you know, the size of the piece that I was working on and the amount of detail that I was trying to put into it. This does come with a brush, and I love the brush. I actually want to see if they sell the brushes separately, because I absolutely love the brush. That's the dark brush that you're seeing me use there. I think it was great. It was, I used it for most of this project, but there were a few times when I had to pull out some of my actual fine liners. And I'm just putting the shadows in. I love this butterfly because it's just so bright and variegated. So on the note of Lightfast results, I could not find Lightfast results online. I have also tried to email Caran d'Ache, and it's been over a week now, and I have not heard back from them yet. I emailed them about this, and I also emailed them about the Neo Color 2s because I want to find out the Lightfast information on those. But somebody on Facebook had actually commented on this piece in a group, and they said that Caran d'Ache did email them some of the Lightfast information. I will link that information below. She said it came in an email directly from them, so I will put that in the description below. I was happy to see that according to the information she gave me, most of the colors that I used and most of the colors in this set itself, other than I think the magenta or purple, it's kind kind of both in this. They call it purple on the Blick website, but I found out it is magenta in this set. And the cyan aren't particularly Lightfast from what I saw. But other than that, like most of the colors that I actually used for this were Lightfast. So I'm really relieved to hear that. But I am still waiting on information directly from Caran. And if I get that information, I will update my description below so that you can have the most updated information that I have. I'm sure they'll get back to me, but, you know, I'm sure they get a lot of questions. It's just taken a little bit of time, and I really didn't want to wait any longer to put this video out. So I'm just going through and putting my details in. And I'll go back and forth on that wing a little bit. And that's one good thing. You'll see me come in and actually use water to lift because I don't like the way that this wing is coming out. So I'll come back in, and I came back in, I lifted it, and then I went back in with my details again. And that's one thing that's really great about this medium. And this paper, this Strathmore watercolor paper greeting card ended up being perfect for this medium. Like, I was so excited. It laid down so smooth on that paper. I will definitely probably be doing more greeting cards with this paint. So this butterfly that I'm working on is called the Comma butterfly, C-O-M-M-A. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And these little guys like to hang around woodlands or a tree line or pretty much anywhere where there's lots of trees and woods, which is perfect because when I first saw this butterfly and took the picture, he was actually in our wood line on my property, and he was on a very old apple tree that we have in the backyard, and it ended up being such an interesting texture to have to paint because the apple tree has a lot of moss on it and the bark is very rough. And while it's not a traditional butterfly backdrop like flowers and something a little bit prettier, I found it to be such a joy to paint because of all the fun textures. I am somebody who really loves moss and trees to begin with. I am kind of a tree freak. So this ended up being perfect. And I, of course, love to paint butterflies. And I really love that there was just a little bit of green in the background, and the shadowing on the tree, I added a little bit of blue to it to help that orange of the butterfly pop. And that way there he kind of stands out against the contrasting colors. In gray, the grays in this, I have a little bit of a blue tinge to it anyway, so ended up working out really well. I'm just going in and trying to put some more detail in that moss and make it a little bit more accurate. And I wanted this to feel like you could actually like reach out and touch that tree and feel the texture of it, which was a lot of fun. And I was able to actually build up a little bit thicker of layers using obviously less water. I could build up some thicker layers on parts of the moss and on the tree to kind of give it some actual physical texture as well, which stands out really well against the rest of the paint and really adds to that texture. So you'll see I'll go back and forth between the butterfly and the tree to kind of up my contrast, you know, darken my darks, lighten my lights, put in some little detail, more texture. Once I have it all laid in, I'd like to go back and forth and just touch things up a little bit, which is what you're seeing me do here. And these little touch-ups really bring, you know, a little extra punch at the end. Sometimes you'll think you're done, but if you just do a little bit more, you could end up with a much better painting. And that's why I have a hard time stopping myself sometimes. But I definitely love this part of the painting where I can just really go in and punch up those details a little bit. And I was able to get some pretty dark darks, even without using the actual black. I was able to get some pretty dark colors with, you know, mixing colors from this set of gouache. Some darker browns and things like that that really contributed to those dark darks. Touch-ups here and there. Going back in and darkening that bokeh a little bit. I love that there's just a little touch of bokeh background. And this is the satisfying part, peeling off that tape. And this is where you'll get to see that there is a greeting card. And I love the border on it. I had so much fun with this. I definitely recommend these paints if you're somebody who enjoys working with pans. And there's the card. And here is the final piece. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe. Also, if you're interested in seeing more of my artwork, I'm on social media, so check out the links in the description below.